More than perhaps ever before, premiers have played a role in this election campaign. Mostly, they've been targets for liberal attack.
The most unexpected just happened. The Western Coalition just formed, and the 4 provinces just ignited a firestorm against Ottawa. Is Canada crumbling? Is Ottawa about to hit a brick wall? In March 2025, a political earthquake rocked Canada. In a stunning move, the premiers of Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and British Columbia held simultaneous press conferences in Calgary, Regina, Winnipeg, and Vancouver, announcing the Western Business Coalition, a powerhouse alliance of business leaders, farmers, and provincial governments demanding that Ottawa stop strangling their economies. Danielle Smith, Alberta's premier, set the tone. The West is finished being Ottawa's cash cow. That's not a request for fairness. But here's where the plot thickens. Rumors, although unverified, should be taken with a grain of salt. They suggest a shadow group within the coalition called the Western Independence Coalition, WIC. Besides that, insiders also whispered of secret meetings held since late 2024 in remote Alberta ranches and private British Columbia resorts. Who's attending? Provincial cabinet ministers, tech moguls, military veterans, and allegedly, a former deputy prime minister attended, with the former deputy prime minister declaring, "Canada as we know it is finished." Meanwhile, a February 2025 Angus Reid poll found 52% of Albertans support exploring separation, with 45% in Saskatchewan, 38% in Manitoba, and 30% in British Columbia. This isn't a fringe idea, it's a movement. Not only that, the West has been simmering for years because Ottawa's carbon taxes, pipeline delays, and unequal federal transfers have fueled resentment. That's not just all of it. Alberta also sent $20 billion more to Ottawa in 2024 than it received, while Quebec got a $15 billion surplus. And this is where it really gets ugly. Saskatchewan's farmers are faced with crippling tariffs. Manitoba's manufacturers are ignored, and federal red tape hamstrings British Columbia's ports. The truth is, the Western Business Coalition isn't just a protest, it's become a line in the sand. But are the 4 provinces bluffing, or is this the first step toward a Western exit? This is what is at stake. The West holds Canada's economic lifeline, while Alberta pumps out 4.2 million barrels of oil daily, fueling 60% of Canada's energy exports. And Saskatchewan's potash and uranium dominates the global markets, supplying about 30% of the world's fertilizer. And you think Manitoba is left out, but their wheat and canola feed millions, while British Columbia's ports handling 40% of Canada's trade, including $200 billion in annual exports. Together, these provinces generate $1.2 trillion in GDP, nearly half of Canada's total. Now, if they cut Ottawa off, the national economy could lose $300 billion overnight, and this won't be funny at all for Canada. In 2024, Alberta's government tabled legislation to explore pulling out, citing mismanagement by Ottawa. Experts like Dr. Ellis Grant from UBC warned, if Alberta exits, the CPP could collapse by 2030, leaving millions of retirees penniless. Saskatchewan and Manitoba are reportedly considering similar moves, though BC's premier is cagey, but there are unconfirmed whispers claiming the coalition is drafting a Western pension system independent of Ottawa. If true, your retirement savings could vanish if you're in the East or skyrocket if you're in the West. But it's not just money. The West controls pipelines, railways, and trade routes. Rumors, that's pure speculation, suggest the coalition's already negotiating trade deals with U.S. governors from Texas, North Dakota, and Montana. Alleged leaked documents, yet to be verified, hint at plans for a Western currency and border security by 2026. Could they be prepping to ditch Ottawa entirely? Alberta's Sovereignty Act, passed in 2022 and strengthened in 2024, lets the province ignore federal laws. A referendum bill is on the table, with a vote possible by 2026. Beyond this, 1.2 million Westerners had signed the West for West petition by April 2025 demanding autonomy. This is no longer a long talk, it's spiraled into actions. Here's another twist. Alberta and BC's tech sectors are building Ottawa-proof systems, encrypted servers, and independent data networks. Calgary's tech hub grew 20% in 2024, with startups prioritizing digital sovereignty. Unconfirmed sources claim these systems could cut Ottawa out entirely, creating a digital West. Think it's far-fetched? These servers are already online. Ottawa's not rolling over. Prime Minister Mark Carney's government is in crisis mode. Emergency cabinet meetings began in March 2025 with proposals to slash provincial funding. The Emergencies Act, used in 2022 against trucker protests, is back in play. Unconfirmed insiders whisper of Operation Shutdown, a classified plan for infrastructure seizures, media blackouts, and asset freezes in rebellious provinces. Sound familiar? Ottawa froze bank accounts in 2022. This could be round 2, but even bigger. This is where it gets more interesting. The Canadian Armed Forces had 68,000 active personnel in 2025, down 10% from 2020 due to recruitment woes. Speculation, take it with skepticism, claims 8% of troops suffered injuries from mandatory Moderna shots during COVID, gutting special forces, pilots, and search and rescue units. If true, Canada's defense is on its knees. Worse, a rumored anonymous officer warns, not all soldiers will obey Ottawa. A split military? That's a powder keg. Ottawa is countering with a national continuity task force uniting Ontario and Quebec to contain the West. Even so, Ontario's 2025 budget boosted provincial security by $500 million, citing national stability. They're not talking, they're arming. Here's an even wilder rumor. Although unconfirmed, globalist agendas seem to connect Carney to Donald Trump through murky business deals, suggesting a staged crisis to force Canada's annexation by the U.S. Others claim Western premiers are pawns in a technocracy revival, echoing the 1930s technocracy movement's dream of a U.S.-Canada-Greenland merger. Pure speculation, but it fuels distrust. Is this rebellion organic, or are global elites pulling the strings? This crisis isn't Canada's alone. The world's on edge. The U.S. imported $150 billion in Canadian oil in 2024, mostly from Alberta. If the West breaks away, unconfirmed sources say Texas and Montana governors are poised to recognize them within days, offering energy and defense pacts. The EU has flagged trade risks as BC's ports handle 20% of their Pacific imports. The UN is demanding updates, and China has accused Canada of losing control. NATO's silence is telling, as Canada's Arctic bases are critical, and a split will weaken their strategy. Economists warn of a dollar collapse theory. Canada's credit rating slipped to AA in 2024, and a Western exit could crater it to junk status. The Canadian dollar could plunge 30%, spiking inflation and wiping out your savings and your pension. Unconfirmed rumors also claim that the West is drafting trade agreements with Asia, bypassing Ottawa. If Quebec follows Alberta, as polls show 40% support separation, then Canada's done. Here's the darkest twist. The conflict that may result from all these. Protests are surging. About 50,000 people rallied in Calgary in April 2025, chanting, "Wexit now." Armed groups in rural Alberta and Vancouver Island are vowing to defend the West. The RCMP has stretched thin, with 2024 data showing only 19,000 officers nationwide. Unconfirmed murmurs of martial law zones are growing louder. And those leaked documents? They mention Fort Liberty, an alleged Western command post with bunkers and training fields. The question is, why prepare for war unless you expect one? Just when you thought it couldn't get crazier, cracks appear. Unconfirmed leaks suggest Manitoba's premier is secretly negotiating with Ottawa for billions to stay loyal. Is this betrayal? If true, it could fracture the coalition or unleash Western fury. Worse, the 2026 referendum might be rigged. Rumored reports, though unverified, about tampered voters and missing ballots in test runs. If the West smells fraud, violence could erupt. However, the U.S. is circling, global powers are scheming, and Ottawa's ready to choke the West with economic warfare. Is this a fight for freedom or a globalist trap? Could 2026 birth a new nation? Wexit? West Canada? Or the Republic of the Rockies? Comment your name for it below. Are the premiers heroes, pawns, or something else? We've only scratched the surface. Subscribe now and leave your comments in the comment section, because what's next will leave you speechless.